A lot continues to go on the political landscape, and we'll see what folks have to say about a number of these things on the show World Politics, which is what this show is, and all along those lines. And we'll definitely find out people's opinions on a number of political issues that are taking place, including the continuing efforts to downsize the federal government and all along those lines. So a lot of people are paying attention to that, as well as a number of other things. The Supreme Court has ordered a new trial for Oklahoma death row inmate Richard Glossip. So the Supreme Court has thrown out the death sentence and murder conviction of Oklahoma death row inmate, and Sonia Sotomayor just dealt a major blow to what some were saying was a shady prosecution and all along those lines. And U.S. House Republicans facing new woes on Trump tax cut plans. So conservatives threatened to tank the House budget vote needed to advance Trump agenda. So it looks like the House GOP is struggling over the budget blueprint, signals bigger problems for Trump's agenda. And like I said, there's a lot going on with this Trump agenda, and we'll see how folks are feeling about this. And federal technology staffers have resigned rather than help Musk and Doge. So 21 Doge staffers resigned, saying they won't help dismantle public services. So looks like Elon Musk and Doge have faced some setbacks. So we'll see what folks have to say about that as well. But definitely there's a lot going on, including a lot going on in the world stage as well. But actually over there in New Jersey, the New Jersey budget could need a break the glass strategy for Trump and Doge. So Murphy's New Jersey budget plan under the shadow of a massive federal cut. So Governor Murphy proposes $58.1 billion budget that raises fees and avoids broad tax hikes. So that's one of the ways that folks are dealing with that area. And Utah is set to become the first state to ban fluoride in public water. So Utah on the verge of being the first state to ban fluoride in public water. And I know that that is actually used in swimming pools and in some of our drinking waters, but it looks like the Utah lawmakers are voting to say farewell to fluoridated drinking water and all along those lines. So definitely be interested to see what folks have to say about that as well. And even as that Macron flatters dear Donald, the U.S. is deeply estranged from the West on Ukraine. So it looks like Macron got no promises on Ukraine, but called his meeting with Trump a turning point. So Macron wants Trump to be careful on Ukraine and fact checks him at the White House. So it looks like Doge has also quietly deleted the 5 biggest spending cuts it celebrated last week. So Doge released data about federal cuts of contract savings. It doesn't add up. So Doge is claiming $65 billion in total estimated savings as the agency efficiency leaderboard is launched. So I guess they're going to have a leaderboard as to who's being more efficient and who's being less efficient and all along those lines. So definitely lots going on in this world of ours, and particularly this world of politics and all along those lines, and even international politics as well. So there's a lot going on, and I'm going to bring in my folks and see what they've got to say. It looks like in the former East Germany, the hard-right AfD party finds most of its support. So wary of Trump, Germany's Merz warns it's 5 minutes to midnight for Europe. So definitely that's what folks are saying in that area. And the White House says it will decide which news outlets cover Trump. And it looks like it's going to be trying to rotate some. Who knows? Maybe Pod TV can get in that rotation. But it'll be interesting to see whether we're able to join the APs of the world and all along those lines. A federal judge in Seattle blocked Trump's effort to halt the refugee admission system. The judge blocked Trump's attempt to stop refugee admissions for now. So looks like U.S. bishops' legal challenge to Trump's refugee funding halt has gone to mediation, and for right now it has been blocked. So we'll see what happens to say about that as well. And it looks like there is some Elon Musk directive to federal workers to explain their productivity or get the axe is still being something that folks are talking about as well. And Trump has curbed Chinese investments and moves on Canada and Mexico tariffs. So Trump says tariffs on Canada and Mexico will go forward. So it looks like they will be starting next week. And so I know that even Sasha was talking about how apparently there's some effort that Canadians, and I'm imagining some of the Mexican folks as well, are going to stop buying American goods. So definitely there's a lot going on in this world of ours on the political landscape and all along those lines. So lots going on in this way. We'll definitely be getting to what folks have to say about a number of these things and all along those lines. By the way, a New Hampshire woman contaminated grocery store items with urine for years. So New Hampshire woman was filming herself carrying out disgusting acts with food in a grocery store. So an online content creator arrested after videos surfaced of her urinating on grocery store products dating back 4 years. So that is very disgusting and all along those lines. But we're going to get to some of the other things that might be disgusting from the government side and all along those lines and the world politics side. So definitely getting ready to bring some of my other folks in and see what they've got to say about a number of these things, including one of the founders of the network, Kim Calhoun, and also Rick Rosner and Sasha Starr, and all along those lines. So we got a lot of things that are being out there in the political landscape. It seems like there's no shortage of things to talk about in the world of politics. So how are things going with you fine folks?
Okay, I want to talk about the drift towards fascism in around the world. So my buddy and I asked AI, is this an accident of history that all these wannabe dictator dudes pop up right now just as AI is popping up? And AI, and it doesn't know everything or even anything really because it can't actually think, but AI said, yeah, it's not an accident. That the same technology that leads to AI makes for social media. And social media makes for propaganda, which you can use to make people crazy and vote for people, that aren't great.
Yep. That's very much the case. Kim, how are you doing today? And what's going on in your neck of the woods, which is my neck of the woods as well? But how are things going there? And what is your take on all these actions from Mr. Trump?
Well, I think that he showed how stupid he is when he had to be corrected, talking about what, the other countries were doing and how much money that they were spending. I think that his stupidity is starting to show. And I think what he needs to do is sit down, put tape on his mouth, and start focusing on the real problems and stop running his mouth. I think that is my take on it. Canada is sick and tired of him. Mexico is sick and tired of him. We are the Alamo between two countries. And I sat and listened to Sean Hannity today, who totally pissed me off because he said, well, we have more people than you, so why do we care? Because he was talking to somebody from Canada, and he goes, aren't you afraid of us? And I'm like, that's the whole Republican thing. That's their whole theme, is be afraid of us, not partner with us or work with us. But he was putting this guy down from Canada who was saying, hey, we didn't appreciate the fact you guys are treating us bad. You booed us. We don't like the way we're being treated by America. We wish you guys would work with us, not, throw things at us and make us do things. And that's what Trump is all about. It's my way or the highway. And, people don't realize he programmed a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Think about this. All right. How many people actually went to jail serving him or were associated with him? They went to jail. They were doing work with him, but they took the fall, right? A lot of people. I haven't even finished counting them. I'm going through a long list. It's been collected over the years and still being collected. But a lot of people did. But I also consider the J6ers doing his service work for him, being a servant to him. And then he gets out and he pardons all of these people like he's God, right? And they all worship him like he's God now. They all think he is. They all think, oh, he forgave me. He's given me a second chance. But what I've noticed is on listening to some of them on social media, they're saying nobody will hire me. Well, no, I'm not going to hire you because you go on with this attitude that you can commit crimes and get away with it, that you can terrorize our country. And this one girl goes, y'all were just too, Democrats are just too afraid to show their feelings. And I'm like, No, I think we just have morals. So I have a new nickname for him because you know how the Republicans have the donkey. I call it the jackass. I call
Right.
it Magass, ASS.
I guess. That's
So
a new
you
nickname
said,
for him.
Hannity said, we have more people than you, Canada. Why should we care? So Trump's honeymoon period is just about over if you look at the numbers, but Trump won't care. The first time Trump was president, Trump had net positive approval for about the first week he was president. Now we're 5 weeks in. He's gone from 8% net approval to less than 1%. So in another week or so, he'll be underwater again, but he won't care. He was negative 10 points for most of his first presidency. Didn't matter. He just did whatever he wants. And now he's got more leverage, and he'll continue to do whatever he wants.
Yeah. And by the way, speaking of Sean Hannity, we had, we air the show that Dr. Diamond does. And all along those lines, I think we aired it taped on Saturdays, and all along those lines, I think we air it later. But their first guest, because they had been on hiatus, was actually Minister Scott. And Minister Scott actually had the pleasure of debating Sean Hannity. So I'm hoping to get him on as well, because he's actually debated.
Sasha has to leave, and Sasha's got to go pretty soon. So,
yeah. Mark,
remember
I'm trying to bring that video and everything, because I know that video was very interesting.
Yeah, put it on in. It was on our Ukrainian show today. There is an interview with Professor Timothy Snyder on MSNBC. Could you put it on, Mark?
Yeah, I'm trying to get that lined up. So while y'all continue talking about it, I'll get this lined up so that folks can hear it and everything. But just continue the conversation. So
it's a great video. It's talking about basically the Trump's action on the Ukrainian issue. Now, what's evident is that Trump hates Zelensky. Trump hates Ukraine. He is siding with Putin and Russia against Ukraine. There is no doubt that there will be no further help to Ukraine from the United States. There is no doubt that a negotiator who sides with one of two sides cannot be negotiator. So what exactly Trump is doing on the negotiating table? Whom he represents? What is he doing there? Why? Well, I understand Russia, but I don't understand why Ukraine tolerates this clown to be a negotiator. There are a lot of countries who offer help to negotiate, including Turkey, even China, and Brazil, and any European country or all European countries. Why to tolerate Trump's antics? This is a major question. And well, that video would be really a good view of really what's going on, because Professor Timothy Snyder did it so well that regardless what I say, I will not be able to exceed what he's done.
I'm going to get ready to try to get that up and everything. While I get that up, your thoughts around that, Rick, and everything, while I get this lined up on the shared screen and all along those lines. But what is your take on what's going on with this whole notion of what's happening with the way Russia is now having an ally in Trump?
Well, so it cuts. So Ukraine, and my numbers, Sasha can correct me, Ukraine's gotten about $100 billion worth of aid from Europe and the NATO countries, and about 75 billion from the US. So Europe's always so that basically, with the US backing away, and also the US has been slow, will vote for the money, but then we've been slow to give it. So Ukraine might be losing 1/3 of its foreign aid compared to, say, 2 years ago. But Ukraine will go on fighting. And it's been a stalemate, and I assume it will continue to be a stalemate. That Russia has taken a slice of the eastern side of Ukraine that's about it's like if you took California and divided it in half the long way, that's about as much, that's the shape of the and the size of the chunk that Russia has taken. And the negotiation will involve, when the fighting stops and how much of that chunk Russia gets to keep.
Well, the situation is now that for agreeing to a peace or at least a ceasefire is a guarantee that there will be no further attacks from Russia against Ukraine. And of course, a consortium of countries, including US and European countries, they could easily provide that guarantees. But the problem is that the United States is not willing really to do anything about it, and they're ruling that out. However, let's watch the video.
So let's watch this video right now. So after that, we can discuss it.
Better one time to see than 100 times to listen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The war in Europe in World War II was fought by an alliance of two countries attacked by Adolf Hitler, Great Britain and Russia, Soviet Union. Neither country could have survived the war without the other. Great Britain and the Soviet Union were eventually joined by a third ally who played the decisive role in winning the war, the United States of America. Those three allies had very different governments and very different people leading those governments. The Soviet Union's dictator, Joseph Stalin, never trusted his English-speaking allies. He always worried that one of his allies would try to negotiate an individual peace agreement with Hitler. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt and British Prime Minister Winston Churchill feared the same possibility with Stalin, but the alliance held all the way to the end of the war, with the president and the prime minister repeatedly promising Stalin that they would not engage in separate peace negotiations with the mass murdering dictator Adolf Hitler, who invaded the Soviet Union. We now know how different that would have been if the United States had a president like Donald Trump during World War II. Donald Trump broke with the United States allies fighting Russian dictator Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine by sending a delegation led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio to a meeting in Saudi Arabia to negotiate with the murderous dictator Vladimir Putin's representatives. Here's the way Senator Marco Rubio saw Vladimir Putin before becoming Donald Trump's Secretary of State.
A gangster in Russia is threatening NATO, threatening the unity of Europe, and now expanding his reach into the Middle East at our expense.
That is the way Winston Churchill and President Roosevelt talked about Adolf Hitler's march across Europe, invading every country along the way, the countries that are now unified against Vladimir Putin's Hitler-style invasion of Ukraine. Here's what Secretary Rubio said today about his meeting with the people who work for what he used to call a gangster in Russia.
I came away today convinced that they are willing to begin to engage in a serious process to determine how and how quickly and through what mechanism can an end be brought to this war. Whether we can ultimately reach that outcome will obviously depend on every side in this conflict's willingness to agree to certain things.
Joining us now is Timothy Snyder, professor of history at Yale University. He's author of the New York Times bestsellers On Freedom and On Tyranny. Professor Snyder, I just want to add one more thing that was said on this same day that Secretary Rubio said that, just to show us how Donald Trump has stacked the deck now against Ukraine, who he apparently blames for the war. Let's listen to what Donald Trump said today about Ukraine.
I think I have the power to end this war, and I think it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal.
You should have never started it. He's saying that to Ukraine.
Yeah, it's ghastly. Ukraine was invaded by Russia in violation of every fundamental principle of international law. And the Ukrainians have resisted far better and far longer than anyone would have expected or had a right to expect of them. And by resisting, they've allowed the rest of us throughout the West, throughout the world, to have a chance to engage in more or less normal politics for the last 3 years. They've held off darkness for so many other people. So the contemptuous way that Trump is treating them is not only wrong, it's morally disgusting.
And you point out there's a difference between negotiating and talking. What do you see actually happening in Saudi Arabia?
The crucial thing here, as you suggested earlier, is that the Ukrainians are not actually present. It's a little bit like it's 1941 and the United States meets with Nazi Germany to decide the fate of Great Britain without inviting the British. That's where we are right now. We are meeting with the aggressor. We are meeting with a representative of a man who is indicted for war crimes, and quite rightly so. We are legitimating this war of aggression by meeting with the representatives of the aggressor state. And we are marginalizing the people, the nation, the Ukrainian state that were attacked. Negotiation could take place between Ukraine and Russia about peace. It can't take place between the United States and Russia about peace because the United States and Russia are not at war. If the United States wished to bring an end to this war, and if Mr. Trump is right that he has the power to end this war, the way that that would look would be that the United States would make it harder for the aggressor to fight and easier for the state that's defending itself, Ukraine, to do so. But that is not what we are doing. If anything, we are throwing our power on the side of the aggressor, which is not going to bring peace. It's more likely to bring a longer and a bloodier war.
How does what we're seeing now compare to, say, what Henry Kissinger did in the Nixon administration that got the phrase shuttle diplomacy? Kissinger would talk to one side in the Middle East exclusively, and then Kissinger would go and talk to another side in the Middle East. And in the hope that that could come together into something, it never did come together into something lasting in the Middle East. But there was that was a version of talking to one side at a time.
Yeah, I mean, there's no coherence to what the United States is doing formally. We've got a special envoy to Ukraine. We've got a special envoy to Russia. The special envoy to Ukraine wasn't at the talks in Saudi Arabia, just as the Ukrainians weren't at the talks in Saudi Arabia. The Americans speak publicly about what they're doing in ways that are totally contradictory, with some American officials saying that we'll strengthen Ukraine, all the way to Donald Trump saying Ukraine might not even exist at the end of this. So there's no coherence to this, except the underlying formal problem that we've left the Ukrainians out of it entirely. And the other thing which has happened, which is the United States has started to make demands on Ukraine. The other thing that Trump talked about today was that Ukraine should have presidential elections, which is a Russian talking point. The Russians are demanding that they have a say in how Ukraine is run, and the Americans are now echoing that. And at the Munich Security Conference, where I was a few days ago, the Americans demanded that Ukraine hand over half of its mineral wealth, half of its economic income, essentially, forever, in exchange for nothing in particular. So it's looking awfully like what we're doing is that we are using the threat of Russian violence to try to get things ourselves. That is a far cry from attempting to be a mediator in an ongoing conflict.
What should happen next?
What should happen next is pretty simple. I mean, in an ideal world where the US were making sensible policy, what we would say is the United States should assist Ukraine. We should go up from the measly figure of 0.15% of GDP. We should help them more. And we should enforce sanctions on Russia and make it harder for Russia to prosecute this war. Trump is right about one thing. The United States does have the power to end this war, but it would have to make positive policy in a sensible direction. If you want a war to end, you have to make it harder for the aggressor and easier for the defender, not the other way around. In the world that we're actually in, where it doesn't look like American policy will be sensible, this has to be the hour of Europe. The Europeans have to make sure that Ukraine can defend itself, and they have to offer all the economic aid that they possibly can, beginning right now.
Donald Trump has never been able to mount an argument about anything without lying. And one of the interesting lies he tells about this war is he wildly exaggerates the number of casualties on both sides, puts it up into the millions, which isn't even close. And that is seemingly, if you can translate it into something that could have intention, to make himself seem even more heroic by stopping these millions of deaths, which are not occurring.
He's trying to make it seem like he's the one with any power. You know, a week ago, I was 20 miles away from the front in a city called Zaporizhzhia. And as you drive along the main boulevard, you see buildings that have newer bricks and older bricks. And the reason for that is that the Ukrainians repair the buildings. As soon as the Russians destroy something, a road, a building, a hospital, they repair it. I was there to open a school, which was built in 6 months, which is an extraordinary thing under rocket fire and bombing. The entire school was underground and students were there very happy they could be in school. Ukraine is attacked, things are destroyed, people are killed, and they keep fighting, they keep rebuilding. They have been doing this essentially on their own for a long time. Their country is not the wreck that Donald Trump is describing. Their trains run on time. Their roads are clear. Their cities function right up to the front. He's trying to create this idea that the Ukrainians are hopeless and Zelensky hasn't done anything, which is exactly wrong. They've been valiant, and we ought to be respectful and appreciative, and we ought to be on their side.
Yep, powerful video.
So I have a question. Sasha's still here? Maybe.
Yeah.
So how the land, the 30,000 square miles that have been captured by Russia, is that even reasonably habitable at this point? So there are 2 million landmines scattered throughout this area. You got 3 to 3.5 million people living in that area. Is it all devastated, or is it, you know, if Ukraine got any of that land back, would they quickly be able to make it habitable again?
So he must be off the mic and everything. Maybe Nick's got some thoughts on that.
Okay. You know, that's a good question. Maybe Sasha will come back and talk.
Well, he said he had to go, so he might. I think he's
right. So there he is.
Oh, there he
hey,
is.
Sasha, did you hear Rick's question?
Could you do it one more time, please, Rick?
Yeah. So Russia's taken 30,000 square miles, and they've seeded it with 2 million landmines, and you got about 3 million people living, you know, behind now Russian lines, I guess, or in the contested area. If somehow Ukraine got some of that land back, is it usable, or will it take years to put it back in order?
Well, obviously it will be quite lengthy procedure, and we haven't even addressed that yet. It's a part of reconstruction, and how long it will take and how much it will cost. Agendas, they don't have these numbers yet. However, what I'd like to add to the video that we've just seen, Trump was campaigning on the immigration issues, the economy, inflation, and all that stuff. As a foreign policy, he was saying that he wants to make a peace between Russia and Ukraine. But he never said that he will side with Russia, that he'd like to bring Russia back to G7 and have a normal relationship with Russia and open all Russian consulates and missions back to US, because what they're doing, nothing more than spy and intelligence services for Russia. And United States cannot even do the same to Russia, because United States just doesn't have the way to infiltrate Russian agencies, and they don't have enough Russian-speaking personnel. And they see what Russians are doing. They bring their people to United States for long runs. They 20, 30 years, and many times more. So they are getting their education in the United States. They're getting to government and even institutions like FBI and others. And they're sitting there for years, tens of years, waiting for instructions from Moscow, what to do and when to do it. And the United States just doesn't have that infrastructure. To allow Russia to resurrect all the spy network is detrimental to United States interest. And what I heard is justifying what Trump is doing against Russia is to get it away from China. That's laughable, because there is a very strong unity between Emperor Xi and Putin, and Trump, who is being seen as a situation person. It's not gonna break it down, and therefore I think he just betrays interests of the United States, the policies that's been around since 1945, and his overtures to Putin. I can compare it only that if before the United States actually got involved in Second World War, they were helping with Lend-Lease, they were helping to England. So while they were still not technically at war, so why wouldn't the United States try to make a peace between England and Germany? Why wouldn't US send their people to Hitler? So they would say, Adolf, what's your problem? Why are you fighting England? We are on your side. What do you want us to do? We will bring you some goods, American automobiles, and you need what? You need food. We'll bring you food or so. Oh, just make a peace with England. We will help you have good terms. It's hard to imagine, but this is exactly what Trump is doing today with Russia, with Putin.
Can we switch the subject to the price of eggs, which just went up another 1% between yesterday and today? So in the first 36 days of Trump's presidency, price of eggs have gone up 24% to $8.12 a dozen national average. That if that rate continues, that's equivalent to an 800% annual inflation rate in the price of eggs.
Well, definitely, those are still going up.
If that rate continued until for the entire Trump presidency, by the time he leaves office, a dozen eggs would cost $43,000, as much as a Tesla.
Oh, wow. That's the expensive eggs and everything. By the way, because we had a couple of listeners that were asking.
Thinking about it, because people don't realize eggs are used in so many different things in our products. I have been learning alternative uses, and I recommend anyone who uses a lot of eggs, look for some alternatives. It's time to do that, really or invest in chickens, right? And you might have the chicken that laid the golden egg.
You might. And just really quickly, Kim, because a couple of our listeners were asking, just so we can inform them. Sasha's show is at 11 o'clock on Tuesdays and Fridays. So that's every Tuesday and Friday here on Pod TV, because we did have a couple of listeners that were using our scan to ask that question. So I just wanted to let them know, Sasha, along with Ivan.
And you can use that same scan code to go watch any of our live shows all day long. So whatever shows we're running live, you will be able to watch them there and text live. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Just wanted to let folks know that is out there.
This egg article says that Trump has made a deal with the nation of Turkey to import 15,000 tons of eggs to help.
Well, you know, in Colombia, South America, oh my God, they have so many eggs. And there's a lot of free range chickens in Miami. A lot of free range.
No, we saw quite a few when we went down there.
Of different parts of our country. I think even when I was in LA, I saw a lot of free range chickens. But Colombia, South America, I would go into the grocery stores and they don't treat their eggs the way we do. They leave the initial film around the eggs. They don't wash them. So they just set them out and they can stay out for a long time on the counter or on the floor. They just have them stacked from the floor up.
Well, you can also, like, you can go harvest your own. In LA, you can look for possum eggs, coyote eggs, maybe some raccoon eggs.
Jeez, I never even thought of that, right?
They don't, none of those animals lay eggs.
I'm going to ask Nick a quick question and really think I'm glad.
I never thought to go harvest our own. You know, there you go.
I had a quick question for Nick based on what we're talking about with food and everything, because I did mention earlier that Utah becomes the first state, I think, to basically ban fluoride. So you spent some time, your offices are in Utah, but what are your thoughts around this notion of Utah being one of the states that's going like, we don't like fluoride. We don't want fluoride. So they apparently have banned fluoride, and that is coming down the legal pathway. So what is your thoughts on this, Nick, and everything? Because apparently in Utah, there's not going to be fluoridated water. And I do know that that's been an issue that people have been.
All right. Yeah, I do have some thoughts. Okay. Thought number one, I don't drink anything that comes out of the stupid water fountains anyway, Mark, because the thing is it's contaminated garbage. So if they're fluoridated or not, or they even put poison in it, I would really care less. Number two, you should not drink anything that comes out of these public utilities, because you know, you saw what happened in Flint, Michigan. They just lie to you. They're done by local hacks who don't know what they're doing. So if they fluoride it, put fluorine in it, they don't put fluorine, it should be irrelevant.
What's stopping the bottling companies from putting fluoride in their bottled product? Or on top of it, you know, injecting them with vaccines like they do our vegetables.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, but usually they disclose what they put in them, and I drink only bottled water. I never drink from the tap.
In the 1950s,
well, I drink my water.
In the 1950s, before most of us were even born, it was the mark of a crazy person to be against fluoride in water. And now we've moved backwards in history where like a big chunk of the population is freaking crazy people.
Yeah, and generally fluorine actually does help keep your teeth. Look, if you want rotten teeth, don't brush. Let your teeth rot out and put all dentures in.
You know, my husband grew up on the well water we have here, and I've been told it's the cleanest, to this day, the cleanest water in this area. They ask me where I get it from, and I go, my well. So, but his teeth rotted out of his mouth. He went to the dentist all the time. Like, he was one of the few children in his family that started seeing a dentist very young. But I will say that literally as he got older, his teeth rotted out of his mouth. My son, who grew up on this property, we gave him fluoride tablets because we knew we didn't get fluoride in our water. And so we tried to be balanced with it so we didn't overdo it, because he also went to school in the city. So, you know, we tried to, but he struggles with, I'm not going to say bad teeth. He takes very good care of them, but he's had cavities. I, on the other hand, grew up in city water. I had fluoride put on my teeth since I was a little girl at school and at the dentist office and everything. And I've never had a cavity. So I'm all for a good balanced fluoride.
Is your son smart?
What?
Your kid, is your son smart?
Yes, he's very smart.
All right. So, because one of the arguments, we've even had people on this network claiming that too much fluoride makes you stupid. So I've been on fluoride my whole life. My teeth are not great either. I have to use this super strong.
My husband was a genius.
All right, so like I use a ton of fluoride. I don't spit because I'm sitting at my desk brushing my teeth. So I eat a ton of fluoride. It hasn't messed up my IQ. I think that argument that it messes up your brain is bullshit.
I agree.
with you.
I agree. You're a
Yeah.
genius. My husband was.
Right. And-
My son is extremely,
okay. Yeah,
extremely
and
smart.
Utah should not be the leader of anything. If you've ever been out to Utah.
But
No,
Utah,
speaking
Basically sheep and they're dumb.
okay, but Utah has some nice stuff. Utah is green as hell.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
And the people are really nice.
The people are nice and the mountains are great. So, there's
So
some.
we had a question here from someone apparently when
Oh, they
Mark.
want to know about the budget. Did they delete?
Yeah, the
all
Doge.
that?
Well, Mark, what was that about? I mean, you got my attention on that one, and then it just kind of went. Yeah.
Let me see if I can find it again because it was a question. I think they were asking
And
about.
I want to bring up the budget about the national parks, okay? Because this is the reason why, companies fail, and probably explains why Trump had to file bankruptcy 7 times because, they said that the national parks spend $36 million or I don't know. But they brought in, and the people spreading the rumor have got the data wrong. They brought in 33 million, I think, GDP, 55 million in products and services, and I don't know how many million in donations. Now you've got a part of the organization generating more than, double of what they spend, and then you start firing the people. There's something wrong with that.
And
That's
what
the
the
reason
question
why
that Charles was
Northville had
asking
to
is,
close down, because you started firing those smart people,
I just looked it up. The budget for the National Park Service this year, $3.1 billion. That's less than $10 per American. You can mess with the Park Service all you want, and you're not gonna put a dent in the U.S. budget.
No, but they're generating 55 billion in GDP and services, and they're generating 33 billion, and that was in 2021 or 23. They were generating this much, so they're generating more than.
Oh, come on, man. Look, those parks
they're
properly.
generating more revenue than anything else in this country.
They lost money, okay?
No, they didn't lose money. No, that's what I'm saying.
No, what happened
They
is
generated 55 and they only spent 3. I mean, come on.
Rick, you just said that they spent $3 billion.
So I don't know.
3 billion, but they generated 55 billion.
So they need to. So the budget for the national parks, paying for maintenance, paying salaries, that goes $3 billion. The revenue is $55 billion, which is 18 times as much as they're spending. So
that's great. That's great. See, this is really simple. If they're bringing in $55 billion, they're spending $3 billion. You want to keep the national parks operating.
Yeah, but they started firing the people who were making
the
money.
They're idiots. That's not a profitable center. They're idiots if they're firing people.
So this is why I said this explains. It's no surprise that he had to file bankruptcy 7 times if you go around firing people who are generating more money than they're spending.
All right, I've got an idea.
All right.
Hooters might be going bankrupt.
Yes, they're
Take
planning to
all the
buy.
Hooters employees and turn them into national park employees and change the uniforms so they're all wearing booty shorts, and they will bring in 70 billion.
But they're already bringing in 88 billion.
All right,
hold on a second, because they say that the parks and revenue are making money off of different things. To your point, because even here locally in Durham, I know that they make it off of rental revenue. So they rent out a lot of their venues, like they rent out the sports facilities,
products and
stuff
services,
like that. And they rent, and there are program fees. So like there are several programs even in our local parks and rec, and oftentimes you're paying for those classes and rec programs, and there's special event revenue, such as when they do concerts and stuff, because they're oftentimes getting park areas and in their concession and vending revenue and sponsorship and advertising revenue, so and tax related revenue. So they are definitely, as Rick said, making a lot more money than they are spending. So I don't think that they are investigating correctly, to Rick's point and everything like that. I did have to tease Rick about something because I was going to tease him earlier, and it's not so much politics, but I just want to know because he's got some roots to Colorado and everything like that. But apparently there was a bizarre heist going on in one of your former states where a male would go into a pet store, fake a seizure to distract the workers at the pet store while his accomplices have been swiping bulldog puppies worth $4,299 each from a display case. So apparently this is a ring that is going on and everything. So did y'all have a lot of that going on when you were in school where folks were doing crazy things like this, where they would fake something in order to get something like a dog? Because this apparently
so we didn't have the internet to spread thievery strategies. So
Gotcha.
we probably had a little bit less of it. Though I worked in a pet store that had 110 puppies, and all I did was clean up shit all day. And also they didn't pay me enough, so I would be sneaking mouthfuls of dog food just to supplement my diet.
Well, and I'm not sure whether Trump has a dog or a cat this time around, but
no, he doesn't. He does not like pets.
He doesn't like animals, but they did say that the White House protector and most decorated canine, and I think this happened recently, it might have been earlier this week and everything, has apparently passed away and everything. So apparently he was a dog that was under the watch of Barack and some of the other presidents and everything, but apparently he has passed away after he had done his duty of protecting certain presidents and everything. So yes, even the animals get some recognition in the Secret Service. So maybe his job was about to get cut, Nick. So should we be cutting some of these animals? Because I do know that the Secret Service and other organizations have animals that are sometimes paid as well, and so their trainers are paid also. So what is your thoughts about some of these folks that are in the canine unit?
I have a thought. So Elon Musk, one of his companies is called Neuralink, and they put chips in. Well, they've been experimenting on monkeys. They put chips in monkeys' heads, and it kills some of them, but some of them do okay. They put it in some. So if you're going to make animals like work, you need to chip their heads so you get more productivity out of them. Because dogs don't know why they're sniffing at suitcases. They don't know what the deal is. You need to chip them so they have a voice in their head that explains what their deal is.
Yeah.
By the way, this is particularly the most decorated canine in U.S. history. His name was Hurricane, kind of like the Carolina Hurricanes, and he was a 15-year-old Belgian Malinois, and he died on Tuesday after more than a decade in the Secret Service. So even the White House X account posted on Wednesday that Hurricane was a true American hero, the most decorated canine in U.S. history. He bravely defended the White House and spent retirement helping other working dogs through Hurricane Canine. So I think he was
But he didn't know he was a hero because he's a dog. You need to chip him and turn him into a dog genius who can appreciate the accolades.
We'll see about that. But see that you're talking about really minor expenses when you're looking at the U.S. government and their budget. It is full of billions and billions of dollars of waste, and that's what you really want to look at. And some people say, well, it's fraud, it's money laundering. No, it's just pure waste. I mean, and no one really looks at it, has looked at it. And has brought it to the public till recently when Trump is bringing it to the public. But even Trump doesn't know what's going on, so he turned over to Elon Musk, who's much better at finding this stuff than Donald is.
I know, because Elon Musk keeps announcing that he's found these treasure troves of wasted money, and then it turns out he just doesn't. He and his people don't know how to read the programming language COBOL. You know, that there weren't millions of 150-year-old dead people getting Social Security payments.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, some of it's blown up, but some of it is not blown up. Some of it that you can see, when you look at U.S. aid and all the money that's being shipped overseas that is just being wasted. If you look at what the Biden administration did, horrible amounts of money spent on climate change initiatives and all sorts of crazy things, money going out. And when I look at it, you're going to find billions and billions of dollars there that are wasted over a period of time. So as they go through the administrative agencies, and I went through it once, You're right. They should shut down a lot of these departments. Department of Agriculture, it's out of date.
Jon Stewart.
Down the
Stewart went crazy last night talking
shut
about
down the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation, shut down the Department of Education. I can't wait till they start shutting these places down. They have no
Jon
business
Stewart
there.
came up with a way to with like 3 moves to get rid of $10 billion worth of waste. One is get rid of the $3 billion in subsidies to the oil companies that are already making record profits. Why do we need to add icing to their?
Oh, I know why. I know why, Rick, and I'll tell you why. Why we need to subsidize the oil companies. I just bought a lot of oil companies stock, and so I want them to subsidize the oil companies.
Jon Stewart got so pissed he took a mug and he smashed it on the desk.
But in reality, here's the reality of the sewer of Washington D.C. Okay, I just bought a bunch of Devon stock. I bought a bunch of Dino stock, which is Sinclair. I just loaded up on the energy stocks. Okay, what's happening in Washington D.C. There's no insider trading rules. Now, if it was a public company, you have what they call 10b-5 that you violate insider trading. They took Martha Stewart. They sent her to jail for that. She went to jail for insider trading. In Washington D.C., there are no insider trading rules. So I'm loading up on energy stock. Think about it. Then a bill comes before Congress to support the energy industry. Do I vote for it or against it? I vote for it. And all of a sudden, bingo, I'm Nancy Pelosi and I'm worth $200 million. Oh, wait, she's a Democrat. She couldn't have done something like that. You're right. She did.
Republicans and Democrats, everybody does it. And that's a mute argument because both sides do it. But I did have a question for you because you brought up agriculture. And I know that state fairs and local fairs are usually run, even here in North Carolina, by the agriculture department. So are you getting ready to get rid of all the state fairs from all 50 nations and all 50 states? Because most of those state fairs are run by the Department of Agriculture.
Get rid of all. Your federal government has no
They don't freaking cost anything. They might even make a little money.
I think
they make a lot of money.
I know the one here in North Carolina makes some serious money every year.
Good. Then the thing is, send me a check for what they made, Mark, and I'll be happy. The thing is, generally what I've seen in the Department of Agriculture, and I've benefited from that because we used to get paid not to grow things from the Department of Agriculture. So we had 640 acres in Sydney, Ohio. Plus at one time before the Depression, we had 8 640-acre farms with 3-story buildings on it. Okay. And the government, your government, would send us checks and send my grandmother checks not to grow stuff. That was really bright, right? No, it adds more to the national debt. The Department of Agriculture is rife with things like that. They also have tons of loans. So what happens is, wait a minute, I need a loan, I'll go to the Department of Agriculture. Insurance, we were talking about that on the earlier program. Remember, I can't get insurance. Do you know the Department of Labor will give you, Agriculture give you crop insurance? So if the crops fail, they'll go pay for it. And who pays for that? We do as taxpayers. We're subsidizing insurance.
Just to let you know, hold on a second. Just to let you know, last year, the 2024, hold on a second. Last year, the 2024 State Fair, they had a record of 1 million visitors. And those visitors were paying money. So that's a lot of money that they made. I don't know the exact figures, but they had 1 million in the 2024 State Fair back in October. So I think that the North Carolina Department of Agriculture made a whole lot of money off of that State Fair.
Look, if you're making money, I don't have any problem with that, Mark. Like I said, if you can demonstrate that your Department of Agriculture is making money by sponsoring state fairs, I have no problem with it. If your Department of Agriculture, I'm talking about the federal level, is losing money, I have a problem with it cutting. By the way, business is really simple. You make money, you keep that division. Your money, you don't make money, you terminate that division. This is in every business. And the real problem we have in Washington, D.C., it hasn't been run like a business. Of course, there are certain commentators on this program that says, well, it's a government that have to run like a business. If you don't, eventually you go bankrupt. And this country can basically go bankrupt or insolvent or basically spin out of control And they go, well, I don't mind putting on the credit card. Yes, you do, because it causes this inflation. And that's what you've been paying for. So you go, well, I didn't have my taxes didn't increase. Sure it did. How's your food budget doing over there in the United States? Oh, not too good. Duh. Because
well, just to let you know, some of the money that the state fair was given, apparently the strong junior livestock sales of champions with bidders paying $213,000 for the top beef, cattle, turkey, hogs, sheep, and goats, plus the top got to be North Carolina winner. So they had enough money that they could put out that kind of prize money and everything. So yeah, they were making some money all along those lines. So they were celebrating, and they also raised some money for Hurricane Elaine relief and everything. So they had a total of 254,000 meals or 17 truckloads of food products that were donated during their Smithfield Foods Hunger Relief Day that was on the fairgrounds as well, or the farm ground.
If they make money, I don't have any problem with it, Mark. You want to keep the divisions that make money. If you lose money, you want to get rid of those divisions. I do have a problem with it.
There you go, guys. Email Elon 5 things you do a day.
Well, I don't work for Elon, so you know what? Emails.
Doesn't matter. I think it'd be funny if he got me.
He's getting nothing from me, but his employees, yeah, they need to justify their jobs. I totally agree with them. You have too many people walking around Washington, D.C.
Nick, I disagree because I've worked in big corp long enough to know that if your supervisor and your director and your manager and your CEO and CFO and CD dummy doesn't know what you're doing, then there's a problem.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't have to ask every employee, tell me 5 things you do a day.
Sure you do. You know, they need to justify their jobs. They need to know what they are doing.
No,
okay?
their corporate group leader needs to justify their jobs. But you don't need that. How many millions of emails are they going to read? In fact, somebody mentioned that today.
You have artificial intelligence.
Having to sit down and read through 2.4 million emails. And somebody said, "What is it? Elon going to read all of them?" I'm going to know his son is.
AI computers today can scan through and read all those emails. Okay. Yes, Rick.
I think that's a stupid
discussion of saving money from the government. One argument I don't buy is that taxes are killing us, and that tax rates in the U.S. have been going down for 60 years.
No.
And to take any savings and beyond that another $4 trillion and use it for tax cuts for rich people is just crazy bullshit.
That part I agree with you. The tax cuts for the rich are incredibly stupid. And this is something very interesting that your friend Warren Buffett came up with. He goes, Berkshire Hathaway spent $5 billion in taxes. He goes, if the Fortune 800 would spend $5 billion each, you'd have enough money to run the entire federal government without having to collect any taxes. But they don't. Why not? Well, if you look at the numbers, the average corporation doesn't pay 30% or 37% or 21 or 25. The average corporation and Fortune 500 companies will pay an average of 8.2%. That's it. So these high marginal rates you hear about are just all. Jack wants to know Elon's email address.
Jack, if you look around,
I did email Elon the other day to ask him to cut the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation and get rid of that government.
What email address did you use?
Here's Elon's email address. I actually went to the Doge website, and at the Doge website, you can actually email them, and they actually did respond. It took a couple of days, but my request was eliminate the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation. It's an $80 billion waste.
I don't like the website because you have to scroll through things it's not organized. I want to look up this kind of stuff.
If you go to the Doge website, it's pretty easy, and then you can.
There are a lot of websites that are not organized. Yeah, there are a lot of websites that are not organized.
I don't like it, and if they're going to make it like Twitter, why didn't they make it so that you can Twitter back? Wasn't that stupid? You know,
Yeah,
oh,
but-
gee, you fired all the national park people. You were generating 18 times the amount of money you were spending. No wonder you had to file 7 bankruptcies, you moron.
But Kim, a lot of websites are not that user friendly. A friend of mine is actually doing a concert in May that I'll probably be
But he
helping them with. That
owns
is
Twitter.
hold on a second. That is a website for the ticketing. It's called Ticket Spice and
I
everything.
know,
But it's
but
not
Mark,
user
he
friendly
owns
either
Twitter.
and everything. By the way, in the
He
day
owns
before Mother's
Twitter.
Day, there will be a concert featuring 2 go-go bands and a Frankie Beverly tribute band. So I'll be involved with that, and maybe we can get Pod TV to air it live and everything like that.
And
But
we're
that'll
at
be
the top of
taking
the
place, and that'll
hour.
be at Jordan Arena. And we're getting ready to have Saints see up right now.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, for watching.